All right, 20 minutes after 11 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. My brother has one of those timeshare things, and he likes to go down to Mexico.
Oh.
And spend some time there on the Pacific coast, of course, of Mexico is where he goes. Anyway, when you speak to the people who are from there, from Mexico, and you don't ever think in terms of I don't know, racial identity or anything. You just say, well, that is kind of cool. It must be a beautiful place, right? When they talk about it. Mm-hmm. We met a couple of people the other day from Mexico or other Spanish-speaking country. We have a friend from Puerto Rico. He's living here now from after the storm Maria.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Anyway, Florida is truly Florida started out as a Spanish place, right?
Mm-hmm.
Didn't it?
It did.
Laura Gomez is on the phone. She is an attorney, a lecturer about Latino and the law. She's going to talk to us about racism, diversity, and Latino politics. She's got a really well-thought-out book called Manifest Destinies, The Making of the Mexican-American Race. Laura Gomez, this is interesting, and it's almost a shame that we even have to have this discussion, but we do. Good morning, Laura. How are you?
Good morning. Happy to be with you.
Yeah. When did this happen? I thought Mexico and Americans were friends. When did that start to change?
Well, that starts really in the 1830s when Mexico was trying to get Texas, which was a northern Mexican state, settled. And so they started inviting Americans to come in, and I like to say these were the first illegal aliens. They were Euro-Americans who went into Mexico and Texas, and they were supposed to do things like become Catholic, become Mexican citizens, and many of them did not, so they were violating the laws. And over time, Texas broke away from Mexico, of course, and eventually in 1845 became part of the United States, and that touched off a war between Mexico and the U.S., which the U.S. won, and therefore a large portion, about half of northern Mexico, became part of the United States.
Wow, and it seems like such a large amount of time has passed. You would think by now we would have said, all right, let's get along. And am I wrong in saying that maybe in some ways we have? I often think of it this way, and I was just having this discussion regarding Israel and Palestine, that with Mexico and America and the U.S., it's almost as if the people themselves don't have any problem. It's the governments that seem to have the problem.
I think that's definitely one way to look at it, but I think you could also look at particular moments in U.S. history where there has been conflict. And I'll tell you, Larry, most of that has happened when there hasn't been a need for Mexican laborers, and then there's started to be hostility. For example, when economic times are tough, and at other times when there's a need for labor, and I know you see this in Florida too, because you've got Mexican immigrants working there in agriculture, mm-hmm. and you've got immigrants from Haiti and other countries. So there's really been an ebb and flow to the relationship. And you're right, it's been mostly about governments and sort of large-scale industries, right, rather than at the people-to-people level.
And the part of this that I don't understand is if we have laws to govern migrant workers, in other words, if we have something in place legally that says, okay, you can come over here and work for less than minimum wage, then if that's the law, then that's the law. I don't understand why that's an issue.
Well, that's only an issue in certain limited sectors of the economy, right? In many places, there's not that exception, and so, the argument that conservatives make is that there are immigrants coming in and taking, quote-unquote, our jobs, right? So they're not just taking those particular jobs. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but somebody's giving them too. You can't just take a job.
Oh yeah, employers are hiring them.
Yeah,
right?
And that was one of the conversations we had one time. There was a story about a young man who had Down syndrome up in the Midwest somewhere, and he wanted to work on the farm, but he said, "I can't hire you because I'll have to pay you minimum wage, and I can't afford to." So he was hiring illegal immigrants for less, and this kid wanted to work. So it's kind of crazy, isn't it? So do you have any solutions in the book? Do you have any ideas on what maybe our elected officials could do to improve the circumstances?
Well, I'll give you two examples. One is a kind of a really big picture example, and the truth is that this immigration issue is not going to end until there's less inequality between Mexico and the Central American countries and the United States. As long as Mexicans can earn 7 times what they earn in Mexico, they're going to come north, right? It's right next door.
Sure.
And it's appealing. So that's kind of a big picture thing that is about, it's kind of ironic because Trump is saying he wants to end NAFTA, but NAFTA has improved wages in Mexico and therefore has decreased immigration. The other thing that I'll mention is if we had a working immigration system, and this is interesting because it's a place where both on the left and the right, I think we agree that the immigration system hasn't been working for a long time. So that, for example, people who are in the United States and waiting for legal immigration, waiting for permission, have been in line for like 20 years, and this includes Mexicans. And it's just not reasonable to expect people to wait that long. So people end up coming across without documents.
And you gave us a lot of history in your book also. I mean, you summed it up with, we didn't cross the border crossed us. I never knew that the border of Mexico was way far north of what it is now.
Yeah, all the way up to Wyoming, Utah. My own family history is kind of interesting in that regard. I have one grandmother who, her people go back to that time before New Mexico, where I'm from, was part of the United States. But then she married my grandfather, who was born in Mexico, and he came when he was a child in the early 20th century. Half his siblings were born in Mexico, and half of them were born in the United States. And today we would call that a mixed status family and dreamers, right?
Exactly.
There was something in the news the other day about the census. Asking if you are a citizen or not, and there was an outcry from some of the Hispanic. I think even Marco Rubio was against it.
Yes, he was.
Yeah, and I can understand why they would be against it, because you wouldn't be counted then. If you were afraid to say one way or the other, you wouldn't fill it out.
Exactly, and we want the census to be a census of persons, not of citizens. That's very deliberate in our history. There were a couple other interesting census rulings that came out around the same time. One was that Middle Eastern people organizations had been lobbying for a separate category to count them, and that was rejected by the Trump administration. And then another thing that was rejected in the same week that got hardly any press is that the census was considering adding Hispanic or Latino, Hispanic/Latino, as a separate racial category, sort of on par with African American, white, Asian American, etc. And that was rejected. So instead, we're going to stay with what we have now, which allows, say, somebody who's Puerto Rican can say, are they Hispanic or not? Yes, and then say they're Puerto Rican, but then they still have to answer the question, are they white, Black, Indian, Asian American, etc. And about half of Puerto Ricans in the United States and about half of Mexican Americans in the United States refuse to say that they're white, Black, Indian, or Asian American, and instead basically select other. And no other category of people in the U.S. does that. So it's kind of suggesting that people are feeling, I think, a lot of discrimination.
And the unfair part, Puerto Rico is part of the United States, so that doesn't even make sense, actually.
Well, I was talking about the Puerto Ricans on the mainland, but absolutely Puerto Rico is part of the U.S. Yeah.
Well, this is a well thought out book, and I found it on Amazon, and I have a copy. So if you want the copy of Manifest Destinies that was sent here, call me, and I'll leave it for you here at the station. I did find it on Amazon. Looks like you're getting some good reviews. Do you have a website you want to recommend?
I think going to Amazon is great. Can I give a plug? I'm going to be in Gainesville March 21st doing a lecture at the University of Florida.
Oh, absolutely.
It's open to the public at noon, and I'd love to see folks there.
Okay, and this book's been around a while. I just looked at the date, October 2007.
Well, it came out in 2007, and it's been reissued in a second edition just this week.
I see. Okay.
With a new sections.
Okay, so tell me again where you're going to be at the university and the date again.
It's Wednesday, March 21st at noon.
Okay, and
I'll send you a link.
Yeah.
And you can put it on the website.
Do you know where you'll be on the university on the campus?
I don't remember. I don't remember the lecture hall, big lecture hall.
If you send us the information, we'll make sure we promote your appearance. Okay.
Thank you so much. I enjoyed talking with you.
Us too, Laura. Thank you so much for being on the show with us. We'll take a little break and we'll be right back. This is The Source, WOCA Ocala.
An animal or a bird that needs help, call Animus Foundation at 352-843-6379. They will come and get the animal, take it to them. High school students and those with court-ordered community service can earn required hours in this rewarding environment. And veterans who share a bond with animals and parrots who have been through mental or physical trauma are especially welcomed. Families, clubs, and tourists can arrange for tours of Animus without driving for hours or miles. Consider volunteering. Animus needs you. It's time for the Dunellen Farm Days Antique Tractor and Equipment Show, February 9th and 10th, 6 miles west of Dunellen on State Road 40. Don't miss this fun family event. Entry is just $5 each or $15 for a carload up to 6 people. Children 12 and under are free. There will be craft and food vendors, live music, demonstrations, a petting zoo, children's activities, and more. Again, that's February 9th and 10th for the Dunellen Farm Days. For information, call 352-472-2703, 352-472-2703.
An unexpected pregnancy can turn a young woman's life upside down. The House of One in Faith in Ocala gives these young women a place to live in privacy and comfort under the Christian care of counselors who will guide and protect both the woman and her unborn child. The House of One in Faith is confidential, loving, and free. For more information, call 352-687-8895.
Okay, Ocala, it's time to put on those walking shoes and visit the best Camellia Show spectacular you've ever experienced at Bob Wine's Camellia Gardens. We're talking about 5.5 acres of blooming camellias, some more than 50 years old, with thousands of bursting multicolored blooms. It's free daily now through April, and you can get your own famous Bob Wine's camellias for as little as $9.99. A super buy and larger sizes are available. And say if you need to freshen up those azaleas, Bob has Ocala's best, budded and blooming red ruffles, still just $3.99. Other great deals everywhere, so don't miss this show. Bring your family, your out-of-town friends too, daily till 4, Saturdays till 2. Bob Wine's Camellia Gardens. It's a spectacular on Southeast 38th Street in the same blooming place for 66 years.
Here are today's headlines from The Source, WOCA. 25 years ago, Florida lawmakers